Welcome to the HFY Tales channel. Remember to like and subscribe if you like the story. Enjoy and take care. The sharp sound of alarms filled the cockpit as Alex fought to stabilize his spacecraft, Zeta-7. The console flickered erratically, sparks shooting out as the ship rocked violently under the stress of a massive storm. Alex's knuckles whitened as he gripped the controls, adrenaline surging through his veins. He had trained for situations like this, had prepared for the unknown dangers lurking in the farthest reaches of space. But this was different. This was survival. "Mayday! This is Zeta-7, requesting immediate assistance." His voice cracked over the comm, swallowed by the howling winds outside. Only static answered. The ship pitched violently, plummeting through the thick clouds that shrouded the planet below. The vast landscape came into view, lush and surreal, a world teeming with life that seemed too perfect to be real. It was beautiful, yet menacing. His heart pounded harder as the ground rushed toward him, green and blue hues blending into a kaleidoscope of potential disaster. With a bone-rattling crash, Zeta-7 slammed into the surface, skidding across soft moss and halting with a final jarring thud. Pain shot through Alex's body, but he forced himself to move, prying the harness free and scrambling out of the wrecked craft. He staggered as he emerged into the alien air, his senses overwhelmed by the vibrant, fragrant jungle that surrounded him. Towering trees, their leaves glowing with an ethereal light, reached toward a sky unlike anything he'd seen before. The silence pressed in on him as the realization hit. He was utterly alone, stranded on this foreign world. The gnawing dread he'd been keeping at bay now flooded his thoughts. He was cut off from Earth, from his team, from everything he knew. "Focus, Alex," he whispered, his breath shallow. "You've got this." He didn't believe it. Alex grabbed his gear and began to explore the dense jungle, every step a calculated risk. The vibrant colors around him, flora that shifted hues with every breath, were beautiful, but in a way that unsettled him. This place was too alive, too aware. His instincts screamed at him to stay alert. The air buzzed with the sounds of unseen creatures, and with every crackle of a branch or rustle of leaves, Alex's hand tightened on his makeshift weapon, a shard of metal he had wrenched from the wreckage. Hours passed, or maybe it was days. Time had become meaningless here, marked only by his increasing thirst and the oppressive heat. Suddenly, a faint sound broke the silence, the rhythmic trickle of water. Alex quickened his pace, his heartbeat matching the urgency of his steps. He pushed through thick vines until he found himself at the edge of a shimmering lagoon. The water sparkled under the alien moonlight, its surface rippling softly. Strange, bioluminescent plants ringed the water's edge, casting an otherworldly glow on the scene. He dropped to his knees at the water's edge, splashing his face with the cool liquid. As he bent over the lagoon to drink, a sudden ripple caught his eye. His instincts sharpened, and he froze, peering into the inky depths. Out of the water rose a figure, graceful and unearthly. Alex gasped, stumbling backward. The creature stood waist-deep in the water, her skin shimmering like polished opal in the moonlight. Her eyes, wide and luminescent, locked onto his with a fierce intelligence that unnerved him. She was breathtaking, wild and untamed, with long, flowing dark hair that cascaded around her like a living shadow. For a moment, Alex could do nothing but stare, his mind racing with questions. Who or what was she? A guardian of this planet? An inhabitant? The thought that she might be hostile flashed through his mind, but her movements were slow, almost curious. Hello?" Alex croaked, voice shaky, the words clumsy in the weight of the moment. The alien tilted her head, eyes narrowing slightly as if processing the sound. Then, with an unexpected fluidity, she moved closer, gliding through the water like a predator stalking prey. His heart hammered, torn between the urge to run and the undeniable pull of her presence. Finally, she stopped just in front of him, and with a soft, melodic hum, she reached out. The sound vibrated through him, setting his nerves alight. Slowly, she gestured to herself, then to the water, and finally back at him. Alex swallowed hard, realizing this was her way of communicating. "Nia," he whispered instinctively, naming her as though the connection between them had already been formed. Her lips curled into a small smile, a flash of amusement in her vivid eyes. She repeated the sound, Nia, letting it roll off her tongue like a shared secret. The tension between them softened, replaced by an overwhelming sense of awe. Without warning, Nia splashed him, water drenching his clothes. Alex recoiled in surprise, but then, inexplicably, he laughed. A genuine, deep laugh he hadn't felt in what seemed like forever. The alien beauty joined in, her melodic laughter mixing with the soft sounds of the lagoon. In that moment, the harsh realities of survival faded, and for the first time since crashing, Alex felt alive. The playful exchange didn't last long, though. Underneath the laughter, there was a growing tension, something deeper than curiosity. A bond was forming between them, something raw and primal, born out of shared loneliness and mutual intrigue. Over the following days, Alex and Nia spent more and more time together, communicating through gestures, expressions, and the growing connection between them. The jungle, which had once felt so hostile, became their playground. Nia showed him hidden places, glowing waterfalls that cascaded into crystal-clear pools, caves lined with glittering stones that hummed softly when touched. This alien paradise, once intimidating, now felt like home, and Alex began to wonder if he had truly found paradise, or if it had found him. But as their bond grew, so did the weight of unspoken questions. Alex was still stranded, far from Earth, and though Nia had shown him wonders, he couldn't ignore the reality of his situation. One evening, after a day of exploring, Alex sat beside Nia under the vast alien sky, the stars above brighter and more numerous than anything he had seen before. "Nia," he said softly, breaking the peaceful silence, "I don't know how long I can stay here." She turned to him, her expression unreadable. "I have a life back on Earth," he continued, the words heavy with the truth he had been avoiding. "Family, friends, a mission." For the first time, Nia's playful demeanor faltered. A shadow crossed her face, and Alex could see the sadness in her eyes. She stood, moving to the edge of the lagoon, her back to him. "Your world," she murmured, her voice barely audible. "It is not mine." Alex's heart sank. He rose and moved to stand beside her, unsure of what to say. He hadn't realized how deeply his feelings for her had grown until now, facing the possibility of leaving. "I don't want to lose you, Nia," he whispered. Nia's glowing eyes met his, filled with a mixture of longing and sorrow. "And yet, you must." The unspoken truth hung between them like a dark cloud. No matter how deep their connection, Alex's life was on Earth, and Nia's was here, in this beautiful, strange world. Over the next few weeks, the tension between them grew, both of them torn between their desire to be together and the inevitability of Alex's departure. They spent their days in a bittersweet harmony, exploring, laughing, and pretending the future wasn't looming over them like a shadow. Then, one fateful evening, everything changed. As they ventured deeper into the jungle, a low growl echoed from the underbrush. Alex's heart froze, and he turned to Nia, who had already shifted into a defensive stance. Before they could react, a massive creature, a beast with scales darker than night and eyes that glowed with malice, burst from the trees, charging toward them. Nia leaped forward, her movements graceful yet fierce, as she faced the beast head-on. Alex, paralyzed with fear, could only watch as she fought, her agility and strength unmatched. She dodged the creature's snapping jaws, her body a blur of motion, but it was clear she couldn't hold it off forever. Desperation surged through Alex. He grabbed a large stick and, with a shout, charged toward the beast. His heart pounded as he swung the stick at the creature's head, but it barely made an impact. The beast roared, turning its attention to him. "Nia!" Alex shouted, fear gripping him as the creature lunged. In an instant, Nia was there, tackling the beast with a ferocity that took Alex's breath away. She fought with everything she had, her glowing eyes locked onto the beast's, a wild determination driving her. Finally, with a powerful strike, she sent the creature crashing to the ground, its massive body twitching before it went still. Alex stood frozen, chest heaving. Nia, breathing heavily, turned to him, her fierce expression softening. There was no pride in her victory, only exhaustion and a deep sadness that cut through Alex like a knife. "You are safe," she whispered, her voice trembling. As the adrenaline faded, Alex rushed to Nia's side, his heart still pounding. She was breathing hard, her body trembling from the effort. Her glowing eyes looked up at him, reflecting the soft moonlight and something else. Vulnerability. "Nia," he whispered, reaching out to touch her arm, unsure of what to say. "You saved me." Nia gave a small nod but didn't speak. Her chest rose and fell with heavy breaths. And in her eyes, Alex saw something that shook him. Fear. Not of the beast she had just slain, but of something deeper, more personal. "I never asked to be strong," she said finally, her voice barely audible. "I never wanted to fight like this." Alex's chest tightened. He realized in that moment that Nia, despite her alien beauty and otherworldly abilities, was just as fragile as he was. Her world might have made her a warrior, but it wasn't what she wanted. She had carried the weight of survival for so long that she had forgotten what it felt like to simply be. "You don't have to be strong all the time," Alex said softly, his hand resting on her shoulder. "Not with me." She looked at him, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. For a moment, she seemed to let go of the walls she had built around herself. The fierce warrior who had protected him so many times melted away, revealing the tender, wounded soul beneath. They stood there, the jungle quiet around them, their breathing the only sound. Slowly, Alex pulled her into his arms. She hesitated at first, then leaned into him, her body softening as she allowed herself to be vulnerable for the first time since they had met. "I'm here," Alex whispered, holding her tightly, "and I'm not going anywhere." But even as he said the words, the reality of their situation gnawed at him. How long could he stay here? What future did they have together? He didn't want to think about it, but the questions lingered, casting a shadow over their fragile peace. For the next few days, they returned to the routine of exploring and building their life together in the jungle. But the tension was always there, just beneath the surface. Alex couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. His ship was still a wreck, and though he had tried to repair it, he knew that without proper equipment or contact with Earth, his chances of getting off this planet were slim. One evening, as they sat by the lagoon watching the stars, Alex finally broached the subject. "Nia," he said, breaking the comfortable silence, "we need to talk about the future." Nia didn't respond at first. Her eyes were fixed on the stars, her expression unreadable. "What do you mean?" she asked after a long pause, her voice cautious. Alex took a deep breath. "I can't stay here forever," he said, the words heavy in his throat. "I need to find a way back to Earth." Nia's face remained calm, but her eyes flickered with hurt. She stood up abruptly, walking to the edge of the water. "You want to leave?" she said, her voice flat. Alex stood and followed her, unsure of how to respond. "It's not that I want to leave," he said carefully, "but I have a life back on Earth. I have responsibilities." Nia's shoulders tensed, and she didn't turn to face him. "Your world is not mine," she said softly. "You do not belong here." The words cut through Alex like a blade. "I don't want to lose you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. Nia turned to him then, her glowing eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and resignation. "And yet you must," she whispered. Alex stepped closer, his heart aching. "We can find a way," he said, reaching for her hand. "We don't have to lose each other. We can make this work." Nia looked down at their intertwined hands, her expression pained. "How? You belong to the stars and I am of this world." "We belong to each other," Alex said, his voice desperate. "That's what matters." Nia shook her head, tears brimming in her eyes. "You don't understand, Alex. You will leave and I will stay. It is the way of things." Alex's chest tightened with frustration. "It doesn't have to be," he insisted. "We can fight this. We can be together." Nia pulled her hand away, stepping back. "And what happens when you leave?" she asked, her voice trembling. "What happens when I am just a memory to you?" "I won't forget you," Alex said, his voice cracking. "You are everything to me, Nia. I'll always come back." The pain in Nia's eyes deepened, and she shook her head again, turning away from him. "I cannot ask you to stay," she whispered, "but I also cannot bear to see you leave." Alex stood frozen, the weight of her words crushing him. He wanted to promise her everything, to tell her he would never leave her, but deep down, he knew the truth. He was a human, and she was something else. Their worlds were different, and no matter how strong their connection, reality was pulling them apart. The days that followed were filled with a quiet tension. They continued their work on the ship, both of them throwing themselves into the task as if it could delay the inevitable. But the unspoken truth hung between them like a heavy fog. Alex would leave, and Nia would remain. Then one evening, as they tinkered with the ship's broken systems, a spark of hope ignited. A console flickered to life, and Alex stared at it in disbelief. "We did it," he breathed, turning to Nia, who stood beside him, wide-eyed with shock. The ship's systems began to hum, and lights flashed across the console. Alex's heart raced with a mixture of excitement and dread. They had a chance, a real chance, to get off the planet. But what did that mean for them? Nia's expression was unreadable as she looked at the flickering lights. "So, you can leave," she said quietly, her voice thick with emotion. Alex swallowed hard, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. "Nia, I don't want to leave you," he said, stepping closer to her. She looked up at him, her glowing eyes filled with sadness. "But you must," she whispered. "Your world calls to you." Alex's heart ached as he took her hands in his. "I'll come back," he promised, his voice breaking. "I'll find a way. We'll find a way." Nia shook her head, tears spilling down her cheeks. "You cannot promise that," she said softly. "We come from different worlds, Alex. This was never meant to last." Alex felt his throat tighten with emotion. "I don't care," he said fiercely. "I love you, Nia. I'll always love you." Nia's tears fell freely now, and she reached up to cup his face, her touch soft and warm. "And I will always love you," she whispered. "But some things cannot be." The ship's systems hummed louder, the lights flashing more steadily now. The window to leave was closing, and they both knew it. Alex pulled Nia into his arms, holding her tightly, as if he could somehow keep the universe from tearing them apart. Their foreheads touched, and for a moment time seemed to stand still. The world around them faded away, leaving only the two of them, standing on the edge of something beautiful and tragic. "I'll come back," Alex whispered one last time, his voice filled with both hope and desperation. Nia didn't respond, but the look in her eyes said everything. She knew the truth. He would leave, and she would stay, and their love, as powerful as it was, might not be enough to bridge the distance between their worlds. With a heavy heart, Alex turned toward the ship, his hand still entwined with hers. He pressed a button, and the ship's doors began to close, separating them. As the doors sealed shut, Alex's last glimpse of Nia was her standing in the soft glow of the alien moonlight, her eyes full of sorrow, but also love. The ship lifted off, and Alex felt the pull of gravity as it soared into the sky. But as the stars blurred past the windows, all he could think about was the beautiful alien he had left behind. And in his heart, he made a silent promise. He would return, no matter what. As the ship's systems hummed louder and the lights on the console flashed steadily, the realization hit Alex. They had fixed it. He could leave, but instead of joy, a heavy feeling settled in his chest. He turned to Nia, whose glowing eyes were filled with a deep sadness. "You can go now," she said softly, her voice trembling with unspoken emotions. Alex swallowed hard, staring at the blinking lights, then back at her. The thought of leaving her, of never seeing her again, was unbearable. How could he leave when his heart belonged here, with her? "Nia," he said, stepping closer and taking her hands in his. "I don't want to leave, not without you." Nia's brows furrowed, her eyes reflecting a mixture of disbelief and hope. "But your world, your home," she trailed off, her voice soft. Alex shook his head. "Home isn't a place. It's the people you care about, the connections you make. And you. You've become my home, Nia. I can't imagine leaving you behind." Tears shimmered in her eyes, her lips parting slightly in surprise. "But how?" she whispered. "We are from different worlds. I cannot go where you go." "We'll figure it out," Alex said with determination, his grip on her hands tightening. "You taught me that nothing is impossible. We can do this, together." For a long moment Nia was silent, her gaze searching his face for any hint of doubt, but all she saw was love and commitment. Slowly a smile began to spread across her face, small at first, then growing wider as hope filled her heart. "Together," she echoed softly. the word carrying the weight of a promise. With newfound determination, Alex and Nia worked tirelessly, combining their knowledge and the technology from his ship to create a device that would allow Nia to leave her world without losing her connection to it. It was a delicate balance, and there were many moments of frustration, but they refused to give up. Days turned into weeks, but they persevered, their bond growing stronger with each challenge they faced. And then, finally, the breakthrough came. One evening, under the glowing light of the alien moon, Alex activated the device. A soft hum filled the air, and a gentle glow surrounded Nia. She glanced at him, her eyes wide with anticipation. "Are you ready?" Alex asked, his voice full of excitement and nerves. Nia nodded, stepping closer to him. "As long as I'm with you, I'm ready." Alex smiled, and together they stepped onto the ship. As the doors closed behind them, Alex took her hand, his heart racing with both excitement and joy. This time he wasn't leaving her behind. The ship lifted off, its engines roaring to life as it soared into the sky. Nia gazed out the window, watching her world grow smaller and smaller, a mixture of sadness and anticipation on her face. But when she looked at Alex, her sadness faded, replaced by a warmth that spread through her chest. "I never thought I'd leave my world," she said softly, turning to him. Alex squeezed her hand gently. "You're not leaving it behind," he said. "You're just adding to your story. And wherever we go, we'll go together." Nia smiled, leaning her head on his shoulder. "Together," she repeated. As the stars blurred past the windows of the ship, Alex couldn't shake the weight of the choice they'd made. Leaving Nia's world behind was bittersweet, even though they were together. The memories of the breathtaking lagoons and glowing flora remained vivid in his mind, but there was a deeper understanding now. They were embarking on a journey that bound them even more strongly than the planet itself. "We should visit new worlds," Nia suggested one evening as they drifted through the expanse of space. "We've conquered survival on a planet we didn't know existed. Imagine what we could find beyond this." Her excitement was infectious, but Alex also sensed the trace of something more. "You're right, but I wonder." "Wonder what?" Nia asked, looking up at him. "I wonder if one day we'll feel lost again," Alex admitted. "If the excitement of the unknown will replace what we've already found in each other." Nia smiled softly. "We've created something new every day we've been together. We'll keep creating, keep exploring, and if we ever feel lost again, then we'll find each other all over again. That's the adventure." And just like that, Alex realized he didn't need answers to every uncertainty. Nia's presence, her steady and powerful belief in their bond, gave him peace. They had been thrown into chaos and uncertainty before, but now they faced the unknown side by side. Days became weeks as they traveled from star system to star system. Each world they encountered presented new challenges. Some were barren wastelands, others teeming with hostile life, but a few were lush and ripe for exploration, much like Nia's homeworld. They explored these worlds together, marveling at strange flora and fauna, solving the mysteries each new place held. There was a thrill in their adventures, a sense of purpose and unity that brought them closer. Each sunset they watched, each new sky they gazed upon, served as a reminder of the infinite possibilities awaiting them. One day, as they touched down on a particularly stunning planet with towering mountains and vibrant red skies, Nia turned to Alex, her expression serious. "I've been thinking," she said, her voice soft but steady. "What if we built something permanent? A home for us, somewhere we can return to no matter where the stars take us?" Alex was taken aback by the idea, but the more he thought about it, the more it made sense. They had been wandering for so long, always moving from one place to the next, but the idea of having a place to call home, together, was appealing. "I love that idea," he said, smiling. "But where? We've seen so many incredible worlds." "Maybe we haven't found it yet," Nia replied. "But when we do, we'll know. It'll feel right." And so, their search continued. It wasn't just about adventure anymore. It was about building a future, a life they could share. Every planet they visited became a potential home, every landscape a possible place to plant roots. Months passed, and though they hadn't found their perfect world yet, they didn't feel rushed. There was no urgency, no pressure. They had each other, and that was enough. Eventually, their travels led them to a planet unlike any they had seen before. It was a world of vast oceans and scattered islands, where the sunsets painted the sky in shades of purple and gold. The air was warm, and the stars at night seemed to glow brighter than anywhere else. Nia stood on the shore, her feet sinking into the soft sand, as she looked out over the endless ocean. "This feels like home," she whispered, her voice filled with awe. Alex stood beside her, his heart swelling with emotion. He knew in that moment that they had found it, the place where they could build their life together. "We've finally found it," he said, taking her hand in his. "Our home." They spent the following weeks building their new home on one of the islands. It was a simple structure at first, but as time went on, they added more to it. Gardens filled with alien plants, walkways that led to secret nooks overlooking the ocean, and rooms that opened up to the sky, allowing them to sleep under the stars. Every day was an adventure, but it was also filled with moments of peace and contentment. They worked together, laughed together, and dreamed together. Their home became a sanctuary, a place where they could always return to, no matter where the stars took them. Years passed, and their love only grew stronger. They had faced countless challenges and explored worlds beyond imagination, but nothing compared to the life they had built together. Their home was not just a place, it was a testament to their journey, to the bond they had forged in the face of adversity. One evening, as they sat on the porch of their home watching the sun set over the ocean, Alex turned to Nia, his heart full. "I'm glad we found each other," he said softly. Nia smiled, leaning her head on his shoulder. "Me too. And I'm glad we never stopped exploring. There's still so much out there, but I'm happiest when I'm here, with you." As the stars appeared in the sky, Alex realized that their journey was far from over. There would always be new worlds to discover, new adventures to embark on, but no matter where they went, they would always have each other, and that was all that mattered. And so, under the light of 1,000 stars, Alex and Nia continued their adventure, their love carrying them through the infinite wonders of the universe, hand in hand, forever bound by the journey they had shared.